Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Amnesty International India has launched a global campaign to highlight the cost of a month of lockdown in Indian occupied Kashmir. It's the 32nd day today of this lockdown, and the human cost of medicines not being available, essentials not being available is unimaginable. We've also seen the foreign ministers of both UAE and Saudi Arabia come and pledge support for the Kashmiri cause, according to the press release by the ISPR. But the effort the world needs to make at this point, we'll be talking about the combined effort needed at this point for this kind of unimaginable torture, this kind of brutality that is continuing in Indian occupied Kashmir, is perhaps still wanted. We still need to see that kind of effort. We still need to see that kind of a global outcry to this crisis. Let's talk about all of that today. I have with me Altaf Hussain Wani, who's a senior leader with APHC. Thank you for joining us today. Dr. Maria Sultan, who's a strategic affairs expert. Thank you for being with us today. And Dr. Amna Mahmood, who's a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for joining us today. Ji, Altaf Sahab, let's start off with you. As far as, of course, you're more aware of it than, most of us around. But the kind of brutality that we've seen and are continuing to see is unimaginable. We've seen, the world, we've seen some of the reaction from the world, and it's not all. There has been some empathy. There has been the kind of publications, international publications have picked up this story. Perhaps it's gotten the kind of coverage that it never has before. But then, on the other hand, the crisis itself has also escalated to a level that it never did before. How do you see the things? How do you see, us do you think we're making an impact? Of course, Pakistan is continuing to do what it can to highlight this crisis. What do you see? What do you think about the future for the Kashmiris at this point?
Thank you very much. You put a very tough question, future for Kashmiris at this point of time. As we are discussing the situation in Kashmir, the way the international community is not responding. We wanted them to respond, as they have the moral obligation and also the legal obligation to interfere in the matters in Kashmir, because it was the international community which was guaranteed the right to self-determination to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the Indian actions which they did on 5th of August, the unilateral action, bifurcating the state, and then putting lockdown, total lockdown, communication blockade in Kashmir. The human tragedy which is in Kashmir is unimaginable. Most of the newspapers have reported, but I think that's very limited, because the media doesn't have the access to all parts of the Jammu and Kashmir. You don't have the access to the villages, and all these stories are in the international papers which have been published, or due to the braveness of the sons of the soil, the Kashmiri journalists working with the international media. They are putting their lives at risk and reporting for those international media. They're facing the consequences for that. One of the journalists who wanted to travel to Germany yesterday, we saw he was stopped at the airport and was not allowed. Gawhar Gilani, he was not allowed to travel. So this is happening over there. I can say the pain of Kashmiri, we have to realize how a Kashmiri is feeling. I can tell you myself, I have been telling this many of times during these days, that I, as a person, what I feel, I have not slept for these last 32 nights, because all of a sudden I do get into how is my father, 85 years old father, because I am not able to call him. He is ill, he needs medicines, he needs some sort of sympathy, but I can't talk to him. So when my situation is this, how will be the situation of those people who see the forces outside their doors, knocking the doors in midnight, taking their kids away, torturing them, throwing them on the roads, and also we have the reports that in the uniform there are RSS gunners who already we have seen the statements from those RSS leaders about Kashmir. So in that situation, and also taking into account the whole situation of Kashmir, as we needed that international community should have responded rather powerful, but they have not. That is why India has become so arrogant.
Right.
The Indian leadership has become so arrogant. In past, we did not see the international response, and that paved the way for the government of India to do such an action, to annex the Kashmir. To now there is total disposition, it is displacement, and it is accumulation of land which they are doing. So we need, we want to see the international community acting in a more proactive way to end this lockdown, to end these human tragedy. The alerts we have already received from the Genocide Watch and other human rights organizations that there will be genocide taking place. The genocide has been taking place in Kashmir, but now international communities also, human rights organizations are realizing that there is genocide taking place in Kashmir, but we don't see any international response of that quantum which we want to see.
Right. Maria, of course, the kind of reaction that is needed at this point, the caliber, it's not that as strong as one would hope at this point. We were earlier also talking about the fact how you were saying that, the latest act by the Indian government is that they want to leave the Kashmiris stateless. Let's talk about that.
Well, Maruk, I think what we have seen now in Kashmir is perhaps unprecedented what we have seen anywhere else in the world.
Right.
Because what is it that actually has happened or transpired? What we have seen is, number one, that through the removal of Article 35A, they have taken the permanent residency from the Kashmiris. So what does this mean? What it basically means is that they have taken away the Kashmiris from the Kashmiri state.
Right.
So this means tomorrow, as a Kashmiri, so long you're a Kashmiri citizen, you will have no rights in Jammu and Kashmir. Something which is internationally guaranteed to you that this cannot be changed demographically. Right. It cannot be changed materially. So what India has done is, number one, taken the Kashmiris out of Kashmir. Right. Number two, they have said that now if anybody who's going to function in Kashmir, he has to be an Indian citizen. Number three, what they have done is that they have taken them away from all governmental jobs. All political parties will stand disposed of any power if they have been elected on the basis of being a Kashmiri. So the only opportunity which they are now opening up in Jammu and Kashmir is only for the Indians. So technically they're telling the Kashmiris that if you are going to continue to believe that you have an identity as a Kashmiri, you have no place for it in Jammu and Kashmir. You will either be sent to detention centers, or you will be displaced, or in that case, there will be a larger disposition framework which they will be creating for you. That is the reason that you are seeing now the same policy which they're following, that of Israel, that taking children from 8 years on till almost 16 years old. And the main aim is that you are taking these children away so that the backbone of the resistance, the backbone of the strength of the Kashmiris is broken, number one. Number two, what they're doing is that you have never seen this kind of thing, that you can create a condition of failure, condition right. of a crisis, not by through natural calamity, right. not because of an accident, not because of a war, but because of state legislation backed by the Indian armed forces, which have got no legitimacy to be in Jammu and Kashmir. The fact remains that they have got 1 million plus Indian armed forces right now present in Jammu and Kashmir with no legal status. What is their legal status? Because Article 370 on its own does not have any merit. Article 35A was actually holding the prism for the international community so that the Kashmiris could conclude in terms of having a plebiscite. So if you remove Article 35A, which gives them permanent residency, you're taking away the political right activists, you're taking away the human right activists, you are putting the entire masses of Kashmir in one lockdown. And this is not being done by some ISIS group. This is not being done by some, fanatics or some mob. This is something which is done by state practice. And this is criminal. It is criminal in intent. It is criminal in disposition.
Right.
And
of course,
criminal
like
in effects.
Prime Minister's also said that. And of course, the role of RSS is essential.
Actually, Maruk, I think you've raised a very important point. What the Indians have actually done is that they have not just, mobilized the state mechanism, but they've also mobilized their people for hatred. I just saw a video just coming before here that they have picked up a Kashmiri youth in Rajasthan today, and the mob has gone after him, and we have seen a worse case than what you could think of even for what they did to Burhan Wani. So other than the digital fighters which we have got, which are right now taking this freedom struggle to us, to you, and to the world, You do not have any other pictures. If you look at the other pictures, they're trying to give this big perception that everything is okay. They're saying that for 10 days there's going to be a puja in Srinagar, in a curfew, in a lockdown, where the Hindu right-wing parties would be allowed to, come forward and do this. And what about the Kashmiris' basic right to just life? We are not talking here about the larger issue between India and Pakistan. Yes, that persists, that exists, and there will be some way forward. The bigger question at this moment is what happens to the basic right of the people of Kashmir? Just because you're a Kashmiri, it means that you're going to be killed, hounded, and then locked down, and the malnutrition which the children are facing, the women are facing. And what about those daily laborers? What about the people who are working not on some massive funds? You have no communications, you have no access to funds. How do you expect people to live? How do you expect people to have a basic ability to be alive? This is what's being done, not in terms of one person, two people. This is being done en masse in terms of the entire, the entire population of Jammu and Kashmir. And that is what the world needs to be accountable for. How can you let a state do this to not 1 million people, 2 million, but almost 14 million people to one standards, 8 million to another, whatever statistics you take. The fact of the matter is that you have done this to not just 1 or 2 million people.
Right.
You're doing this to a population which is unheard of. It's like as if you have dropped 6 hydrogen bombs on them and then said, why aren't they dying? Why aren't they dying? Because of radiation. You're saying that we are going to lock you down, we are going to kill you if you come out. If your children come out, we're going to take your children, we're going to take your girls, and then we're going to ask you that, are you going to stand for freedom? This is not a question of freedom. This is a question of right to life.
Right.
And as we say, freedom has no price. And the Kashmiris understand this. They cannot take away the resistance from the Kashmiris. You can't dispose people from a land just because you want the land. India wants the land in Kashmir, and they want to kill the people of Kashmir. This is
I'm
unacceptable.
going to go to Dr. Amna. Dr. Amna, of course, like Dr. Maria said, of course, they want the land of the Kashmiris, and then they want to dispose of them. That is all true, but let's talk about the world's reaction. Do you think that we have made all the effort that we can, as I said, with Pakistan doing what it can to highlight the issue, to bring it to all the forums in the world where we think that we might find a voice, but what more can be done in your opinion, and why is the world lacking the kind of reaction that should have come out by now?
Obviously, the response is not appropriate, and that is, as Maria pointed out again and again, that it is a humanitarian crisis, not a bilateral issue, not a trilateral issue, not an international issue. Apart from the political and strategic position of Kashmir and its implication for the world, the humanitarian crisis is yet to be addressed by any of the states. They are asking for themselves, they are claiming themselves as the responsible for the world peace, and I think one is speechless when we talk about the world response. You see, no organization, starting from OIC to the UN Security Council, but they talk that we are looking at the matter, we are just observing, we are keenly watching it. That is not the answer to humanitarian crisis that is being done in there. And moreover, I don't take Islamic Ummah's response very appropriate. You see that after 1 month, 2 of the brotherly countries' foreign ministers are visiting, and previously what they have done, they have closely showed their solidarity with India, not with Pakistan. I mean, if these 2 countries would have withdrawn, or if halted for a while their investment plans, as you see that Chinese foreign minister, he announced that he is not going to visit India. They just have halted symbolically. It would have been a great message for India that they are.
We could have shown that we are united, fighting the Kashmiri
India is going to face some repercussions in terms of economic interest, and they would have come down to some of the terms. So I think that international community is just giving a benign neglect to this humanitarian crisis, and they have to face it. As Maria pointed out, I would second and I would add to this that you know, India has created a sort of extremism and politics of hatred within India. And as she referred one incident, the other is in New Delhi, where a Hindu youth was killed just on the pretext that he might be a Muslim, because he was having similar name Sahil. You know, that was was similar in Muslims as well.
Right.
So this is the kind of hatred that is created within the Indian nation, and that is going to advance. Someday US would face another attack by some RSS worker, because a lot of Muslims and Jews are living there. And I was watching a statement by the former army chief of India. He was saying that the roots of this terrorism, this Islamic terrorism, is there in Middle East. So they are going to sort out Middle East later on. So I think that this is the time the world should give heed to the extremist politics going on in India, and they are doing it constitutionally.
And particularly, you know, let's, you know, Altaf Sahab, you know, as far as India is concerned, of course, they are doing it constitutionally. And, you know, like Dr. Amna is saying, Dr. Maria also said, it's backed, it's state-backed terrorism, nothing else. But as far as the world is concerned, you know, we've gone through, of course, they may have their own interests. That is always a reality as far as international politics is concerned. But do you think that it will make a difference that there are some saner voices within India also that are again and again saying that what, you know, calling out and you know, exposing India in a manner that it needs to be exposed? Do you think that that will make a difference? Of course, at this time, it seems to be that it is, you know, regardless of anybody saying anything, India seems to be going ahead. The government, Modi himself, seems to have lost his way.
You see, we must understand that from last decade or so, the rise in Hindu fundamentalism, radicalization in India, we have to judge it. From last one decade, we slowly and gradually see that they are now in power, and this time in absolute power.
Right.
That is how they accumulated power, by their hate speech, by their what is their ideology has been over the years of Hindu Rashtra, or as to have one religion, one country, and all that like that, and the policy of theirs. So that is the policy of the government of India. They are in power. All actions which are being taken out by the RSS goons, RSS mob around the India are condoned by the state. They are not in isolation. They are condoned by the state, because we have seen in most of the cases in last 6-7 years about the 48 mob lynching incidents that happened. None of the perpetrators were brought to justice. One of them was even elected to the parliament, one of them. And not to think of even the Prime Minister of India, who is the butcher of Gujarat, and then Yogi, who is the Prime Minister of the biggest state, Uttar Pradesh, and like Amit Shah and all others, they were all involved in one or the other criminal acts. And 1/3 of the Indian parliamentarians who are elected on the RSS or BJP tickets on the parliament, they all have a criminal record.
Right.
So, but unfortunately, the world is not yet giving any heed to this, the rising Hindu extremism. One thing which in our narrative, which Prime Minister of Pakistan started calling it, that's a very huge thing that we must count on. We must say again and again, and ask the world and tell to the world how the Indian polity is, how they are radicalized. The Hindu extremism is spreading over India, and they are not going to stop there in Kashmir. They have their rather larger aims and objectives. They will proceed on. So this will be a threat to the peace, not only in the region but also to the international level. Tomorrow we will see such incidents of mob lynching by these Hindu extremists in Europe, in America, and other places.
Right.
If they happen today in India, and nobody is being punished for that. But unfortunately, till date, on international level, we see on the Muslim extremism, Muslim terrorism, and all that, and those things are being tagged not to the Hindu extremism or Hindu terrorism. If you see the incidents taking place in last 5 years in India or elsewhere, all the terrorist acts which were carried out in India, the RSS people were involved in that. There was no Muslim involved in that, no
Right.
other religion was that. So these things, the world at large doesn't know about this. We need to agitate these things. And it was good yesterday. I saw an article by an American congressman. He was referring towards that lady who is to be a presidential candidate, the RSS backer. She's also an RSS basic member. So he was rather telling to the American nation that this type of policy or these type of persons cannot be tolerated in the United States.
Right,
So
but,
like
but
that,
even if we talk about United States in particular, G. Maria, as far as, we've seen how Modi sidestepped the offer by President Trump to mediate the issue. So, India is being clever about the US involvement also. I mean, to a degree, they did offer, and there's no. And first there was a denial that there had been such an offer, but then categorically when it was thrown in their face, he very cleverly sidestepped it. Isn't that true also?
Maruf, I think time has come to do some straight talking. The straight talking is the fact that India and United States are strategic partners. There's no doubt about it. It's more than $1 trillion plus investment which the United States has done in India's infrastructure, in its defense transformation, in its IT connectivity. You will be amazed to know this thing, that as an IT professional, you do not need you don't need to pay American insurance, and you do not need to pay national insurance to the United States. America believes that India will become a technology import-free country. The problem what we are facing at this moment is that everybody wants India to emerge as a great power. But this great power emergence could not have happened without the resolution of the Kashmir dispute. And what they wanted was that they should have settled it. Like any mature state, they should have settled it with
Right,
Pakistan, with the Kashmiris.
Right.
But they have agreed on and taken a course of action which is unprecedented in history. They have decided to annihilate an entire population, and they think that there will be no consequences. Well, yes, it is a humanitarian crisis. There is no doubt about it. The human element comes first. But let's not forget the fact that it is a bilateral dispute. Let's not forget the fact that India and Pakistan are nuclear states. And let's not forget the fact that the world may wait for the genocide to happen and for us to pick up the body bags.
Right.
If they're waiting for 10,000 Kashmiris to die, well, that may be a price which the world media needs to understand that a genocide is happening. But as a Pakistani, as a Kashmiri, we understand that once they are being wrapped in a Pakistani flag, it is the Pakistani concept, the raison d'etre, which is being questioned at this moment. Secondly, the more delay there is for addressing this humanitarian crisis, the greater the prospects of war between India and Pakistan. And I am saying this when, you must have heard that the DGISPR had stated very clearly that we will go to all extent.
Right,
All extent means that if push comes to shove, there will be a larger war. And now here the question is that this $380 billion investment, which we are having from Europe and from other European partners such as France and so on and so forth, and the United States, are you really willing to let go of your investment? Yes, the Kashmiri lives are not important to you. That Kashmiri blood and the Pakistani flag doesn't mean nothing to you. That's just blood. But the fact of the matter is that for us, that flags means everything. For the people of the subcontinent who had come up with the first partition, it meant everything. And if they don't understand this thing, we will fight the next war. But this next war will bring down everybody.
Right,
Is the world ready for it? I think not. And I think this is the factor which they need to understand, that it's not just a question of Kashmiri's human rights.
It's also
not
a
just
question of the region, of the
And the
question of
fact-
peace in the region.
Yes.
Dr. Amna,
and
it's
we
not
can go to any extent
right,
when
and
it comes to
we've
that.
said that we will go to any extent, and for India, like Dr. Maria said, that India to even if they do want India to emerge as a big huge power, the point is it can't do that without the resolution of the Kashmir issue when there are two nuclear states, and we've said again and again that we're ready to go to any extent. But do you think that is making a difference? Do you think that unfortunately, do you think things will have to escalate? Like Maria is saying that more people will have to die for the world to take notice.
I think it's very right. Strong possibility to be escalated to a full-fledged war, or at least a limited war is expected in the very near future. But before addressing your question, I just wanted to add to what Altaf Sahab said, that You know, the world is taking it as a regional crisis. They are taking it as a strategic plan of the rest of the world, that India should emerge as a big power, counterweight to China.
Right.
And there would be more possibility of strategic partnership of India with US and Russia simultaneously to encircle China in the near future. But I think that things are much more complicated from the inside. If you see the composition of India, the world is taking that Muslims are the target, and Muslims are target all over the world. Islamophobia is there. So people coming out in Western capitals to in favor of Iraq and Kuwait and other Muslim countries were countered that we are going to address Islamophobia there. Islam as a terrorist force is to be addressed there. But it is not the right perception because you see the largest province of Uttar Pradesh of India, that is having 55% population that is Christian, Dalits, you know. And what India is doing with that, with them, they are going to wipe out them. They are pushing them out of that state.
course,
Just
they want to change the demographic, of course.
Exactly.
That's why the
and
articles
the
were
same
brought
they are
out.
doing.
For Assam?
From
For Assam, they're taking
from
the
UP.
Muslims, you know.
From Assam, they are taking Muslims, but in UP, they are doing the same with Dalits, and they are 55% Christians living there. And that would be pointed out to the world later when it would be out of control. So, at this time, if the world is taking Muslims as the major terrorist force or major, you know, threat to the world, Muslims are divided in 57 countries. They are not united. They are still following the patterns of, you know, their interest.
And we are
Indians are, Hindus are more than 1 billion, and they are united. They are living in India. When they would emerge, then Hindu phobia could not be able to be addressed by the whole world. That I wanted to just add to Altaf something. What you have questions about?
I'm saying that, you know, the fact that we're both nuclear states, the fact that it is not an, you know, it's an international crisis.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
only, you know, a bilateral issue. It's not like, you know, we've been earlier talking about also. It has to concern the world. It can't be something that, you know, if it concerns this region.
Actually, Marul, they're being very smart about it. They just want that, you know, our response should not come forward. We should just, you know, absorb it. How can we absorb the killing of millions? How can we absorb the milling, you know, the concept of making people stateless through constitutional effort, which is illegally being done? So I think the factor is that they think that Pakistan would not come forward militarily. It's a misnomer. It's a misunderstanding of what Kashmir means to Pakistan. And it's a misunderstanding of what it means to have created Pakistan in the first place. And if this is happening, and I totally agree with what Dr. Amna is saying, that if they do not stop it now, it is not about, you know, where in the world you take away your minorities and tell them and you disempower them. In the age of 21st century, you disempower people. You say, okay, this is, you know, Pakistan is a 95% Muslim state. Some states 98% Muslim state. Should we kill every minority living in Pakistan?
And we've seen how we, and you know, the Prime Minister spoke to the Sikhs. We've you know, their Sikh yatra. You know, we've been very, you know, as far as the corridor is concerned. That is the reaction that we have given. You know, that is how we've treated our
You're
minority.
100% spot on. And second thing which we need to understand is that, you know, it's not just a question, what are you going to do? Kill them, you know, after the Muslims? You know, what does the RSS say? The 14-point agenda says, first the Muslims, then the Christians, then the Jews.
Exactly.
So are you ready for the Muslims, the Christian and the Jews Holocaust in this time and then stand quietly just because you have some economic interest? And what do you think? That being Pakistan as a nuclear state, as a militarily, you know, viable state, we're going to absorb it forever? How do you understand if they're dead bodies, 10,000 dead bodies? What do we say? It's enough? I think the consequences are quite high. What India is trying to do is high brinksmanship, and the evilness or the deviousness which they're trying to show is that they have converted, unfortunately, into this entire effort into a people's war, where they have said that the mobs are radicalized. It's not the Indian state which is radicalized, it's the mob. Yes, the mob is radicalized, but the state is disempowering. The state is not an honest broker. If the state cannot bring honest brokering, cannot bring justice to the people, cannot bring protection to the people, so what is the message which you're saying? We're going to lock you up, throw you into the ocean, bury you under, and then we're going to create a Hindu democracy. And what does a Hindu democracy means anyway, which itself is discriminatory against its own people through the caste system which it puts in place.
Right,
You
I'm
know,
gonna
the
go to
Dalits, the
Ji.
people. So the fact is that the world order which they're trying to create, the global vision partner
Is
which they
actually a
have
distraction
got,
for
does
everyone.
not believe in a
It
liberal
starts
world at
with,
all.
you know, it starts with the Muslims, and then, like you said, it goes on to Christians, and
And
then
it is
Jews
not
eventually.
possible to, just wipe out the whole nation. Kashmiris are not living they are just not 14 million.
Right.
They are living all over the world, and diaspora is very active, and they are working. And moreover, you see the next neighboring region of India, that is, Punjab. And Sikh has shown solidarity not only in Punjab but all over the world with the Kashmiri cause, because they think burden to Pakistan's actions. Pakistan has taken for their welfare, their religious shrines. We have protected here, and Pakistan opened Kartarpur, and that they are indebted to that. So I think that it would not be easy for India to get internal support, especially from the regions they are connected with Pakistan, against Pakistan. And war is inevitable, and that would be the last solution to Pakistani
And that
nation.
doesn't suit the world. It doesn't suit anyone, at this point. Economic gains that the world seems to focus on at this point, there'll be nothing left of that if that does
So
happen.
at that point, we should
I'm going to go
be very
Vanessa.
very much clever at that point, that we see that this time we see that world will not want to be war in this region, and nobody wants war. We don't want war. We want our rights. We want right to live. The people of Kashmir don't want war. More the people in this region usher for peace are the people of Jammu and Kashmir, because they are facing the brunt of the brutality of the Indian state. They don't want war. But you see, when we say the international community will come, there will be limited intervention or a war, and then they will come, they will settle down. We should not live in that fool's paradise. So this is not the Kashmir which we were analyzing previously. We were saying that we will go for this, and then India and Pakistan were talking, and then the things which passed away, they passed away, and we started Shimla, we started Tashkent, and other like agreements in Lahore and all those. This time, Indian state has dismantled the identity of the people of Kashmir, which people of Kashmir will never, ever accept. So they will resist for that. Whatever world wants the peace in the region, if they want India and Pakistan to live in the peace, they will have to settle the Kashmir issue.
Right.
If they will not settle the Kashmir issue, India and Pakistan cannot live in peace. When India and Pakistan cannot live in peace, you cannot not have the peace in the region. When there is no peace in the region, there will be no global peace also. Because the way the things are moving, there will be no global peace. So I think that international community at this time should not come for the firefighting in this region. They should come with a proper solution, with a proper mechanism to resolve this issue, to condemn India, to ask India to take all those actions which unilaterally they have taken. First, those actions, they should revoke those actions which they took on 5th of August, and then pave the way for the settlement of Kashmir dispute according to the wishes and aspirations of people of Kashmir, taking into account all the regions of the state of Jammu and Kashmir into account, their aspirations. Only then you can come to a solution. It's
Right.
not by legislation or by the two countries, India and Pakistan, bilaterally they can settle it. It's not possible.
It's not possible, right? Maria, let's talk about the next steps. We have tried, again and again. Of course, we are still consistently trying to bring the world to react aptly, to this nothing short of Holocaust that's happening as far as Kashmir is concerned. What do you think that as far as Pakistan is concerned, what are some of the next steps we can take to perhaps get that kind of reaction?
I think there are a number of steps which Pakistan will be taking, and Pakistan is determined to take these steps.
Right.
First, some steps in the diplomatic fora. That basically essentially means 5 things. One, going back to the United Nations and asking them and making them accountable, because the United Nations Security Council's primary task is for maintenance of peace and security in the region. They failed at it clearly.
Right.
Pulwama was an example, and now the crisis is even a bigger example. Number 2, we will go to the International Court of Justice, because according to the UN Security Council resolution of 1949, if there was going to be any material change in Kashmir, the United Nations Security Council could unilaterally invoke the ICJ to refer on that and make it binding. on both India and Pakistan to do this. Number 3, we will go to the International Criminal Court, because the International Criminal Court very clearly states that if the crimes against humanity are being conducted and under Article 4 of the United Nations Charter and also the sub-articles, it's very clear this is a genocide in the making. There is no two opinions about it.
Right.
Number 5, we will go to the Chemical Weapons Convention, where we believe that India is using anti-riot weapons as well as weapons and ammunition such as cluster bombs, which is a clear violation of India's protocols, and also the fact that it is a situation which requires a fact-finding mission. So
Right.
these are some of the areas which we would be doing in terms of the diplomatic side. Then, of course, for Pakistan, the biggest issue is to mobilize the UNHCR's Human Rights Commission, our own human rights bodies, and people have not considered the fact it's not about the Friday's march tomorrow, half an hour coming out. It's only a matter of time when the people of Pakistan would start marching towards
That's right.
Kashmir to help access and to create a humanitarian corridor. If Protella could be created for Gaza, what makes them think that we won't do this for Kashmir? Now, this is just, in the softer domain. And then, of course, comes the military domain. In the military domain, of course, we'd be looking at increased mobilization, because if you remember, in 1971, Pakistan had just placed a curfew for 4 days in Bangladesh at that time, erstwhile East Pakistan.
Right.
And what we saw is Indian troops marching in. This is the 32nd day of the Indian curfew. What makes them think that we are going to stand forever for the world? Yes, we are prolonging it till the United Nations conference. We are hoping that India will listen to reason. And if they don't come for the Kashmiris. We understand that. The Kashmiris mean nothing to you. But please come for your investment, which will come down if a war breaks
Right.
out between India and Pakistan.
Gee, Dr. Amna, your comments before I close on what we can do for what further Pakistan
I think
can do
these
as far
are
as
all
issues.
right options, and along with that, in just 3 weeks there would be UN Security Council, UN General Assembly meeting. We should mobilize our all political avenues to get support in UN General Assembly, at least when there would be a resolution to insist UN Security Council to come to the forefront. That would be helpful to Pakistan. So we should send delegations, envoys to all capitals favorable to Pakistan and which are about to be favorable for Pakistan, less friends, but they are neutral, and insist them not to be neutral. And simultaneously, OIC is having its shadow meeting over there, and that Pakistan should mobilize all
What about,
resources.
we've talked about how Islamic...
a human rights report today also.
Yeah.
Right. But we've spoken about how the reaction from our Islamic brethren, Islamic countries is perhaps, not what one would have expected. What do you think we can do to mobilize that? We can try, we've seen, of course, the foreign ministers from UAE and Saudi Arabia come, but we've seen, as far as China's reaction is perhaps more apt,
Yeah.
But how can we mobilize that side to the Kashmiri cause?
I think that first thing is the briefing to all the Arab, and Muslim diplomats.
Do you think this visit
living in-
will make a difference? Do you think that it might mobilize, other
yeah,
Muslim countries?
it's a good beginning at least, because before that we were detached and they were taking anti-Pakistan actions while they were giving some awards to Indian Prime Minister.
At
and so-
this juncture in time.
At this juncture, they showed their solidarity, and you see that inauguration of that mandir in UAE. That was another painful thing. But this is ice breaking that they are coming back to Pakistan, and we should follow this point. But at the same time, we should make it clear to them that we are not going to compromise on any anti-Pakistan move. Secondly, OIC meeting is going to be held, and that human rights report that came from OIC, as Maria pointed out, that should be highlighted. That should be, again, I would say that envoys from government should go to Arab capitals as well, and we should make them realize that this is a time to stand with Muslim Ummah. So I think that would be helpful. And in UN Security Council, we should mobilize all our friends also to take this serious issue on agenda, and there would be some fresh resolution about this. But I want to say that when everyone says that under the Simla Accord it has been reduced to bilateral issue, but no bilateral issue can be taken to this point. And when any of the signatory or any of the party of bilateral issue showed this sort of dissonance and this sort of violation of human rights, then it is the duty of the world to come in, as it happened in East Timor, as it happened in case of Sudan. Then it is the duty of international community to come.
Just to add a little bit of clarity to it, Simla Accord can never replace the UN Security Council resolutions, number one. Number two, bilateral agreements only exist if the basis of that agreement exists. So if you're going to bring material change, there is nothing. And what India has done is actually brought two nuclear armed adversaries in the middle of a ceasefire line. That's about it. You have no line of control as of yet legally, because India has annexed Jammu and Kashmir. Technically, you're in a state of war. And this is a war which is being fought very differently. And I think the only question which we want the world to recognize is, it's not about Shiv Sena, and it's not about Indian democracy acting out of character. The question is this the world the international community and the globalized world wants to leave for the next generation, which is ethicless, moralless, criminal in intent, and totally disregarding all civility in terms of what we understand as global norms of democracy, of liberalism, of coexistence, and so on and so forth. And if this is the future in which powers, whoever have more powers, will kill the others, then what is the future of the world which you're thinking of in terms of technology, in terms of other aspects?
Right, very aptly said. Ji, Altaf Sahab, even as far as the Kashmiri youth is concerned, as far as Kashmir is concerned, it doesn't make a difference to them. At this point, they just don't care. They are so, their spirit and their resilience is unparalleled. That itself, is at this time, I think that it's push or shove for them. They don't care. They're killing them, they're maiming them.
It has been clear to the world from last so many years that people of Kashmir, the youth of Kashmir, do not fear death. They have already shown that to the world. At this point, what is more important is for the international community. As rightly yesterday, Human Rights Commissioner, while addressing the completion of 1 year of her term in the office, she said that I have seen the world going backward, not forward, in terms of human rights. The states are not showing any respect for the human rights, and wherein she referred to the Indian administered Kashmir, to the Indian occupied Kashmir, that along with Syria and other things, we need a dialogue on that, we need to resolve. And these type of actions which the states have taken, the total blockade and total communication blockade in this era of .com, this is unacceptable. So I think the Human Rights Commissioner has spoken. The world leaders need to speak, they need to act, and they have a moral duty, as I said earlier, because they are the ones who have given the people of Jammu and Kashmir the right to determine their future. If they won't act at this point of time, then I think the humanity at large
is questionable.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Altaf Hussain Bani Sahab, Dr. Maria Sultan, Dr. Amna Mahmood. Thank you for your very valuable inputs. Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have today. As far as Kashmir is concerned, very aptly it was said today, is this the world the international community wants to leave for our next generations? Is it a world where the people with the countries with power will eliminate those with less power, kill them? The brutality that is being seen every day, the world needs to consider that. The world needs to consider the region, this region itself, and the fact that the potential for this region to turn into a war zone is right there in the world's face. The worlds need to consider all of this, and the international community does need to look at where we are going. Are we really going backwards? Are we really going to an age where this kind of brutality is just ignored? This kind of inhumanity, this kind of the gross violation of human rights is just another day for the world to watch. Let's hope that we can get the kind of reaction we want from the world. Let's hope that the world does not continue to watch, but does react for the Kashmiris. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.